Who came up with the name the Flying Toasters?
That was just purely by accident. The girlfriend I was dating at the time was working late one night at her office. And she said, "Could you bring me some dinner?" Okay, sure. So I go get something and take it up there to her office. And I'm spreading it out on the table and I'm looking at this computer in her office. And this was mid-90s. And that's when they had screensavers on the computers. And I looked and there was this toaster with wings flying across the computer screen. And I said, "What's that? What's that?" She goes, "Well, it's a screensaver." I said, No, where did you get that? She said, "Well, you can just pick them, you can choose them." And I thought that was the coolest thing, a toaster with wings. And immediately at that moment, I filed that away and I said, that's going to be the name of a band someday. And, we moved on and I, broke up with the girl. And 15 years later, we formed this band. And Jason and I we're starting to figure out the logistics of it and how it's going to work. And what are we going to call it? Jason says, the Flying Toasters. And I go, yes! But that name did exactly what it was supposed to do. A band name is supposed to stick with people. So when they've had 20 beers at the end of the night and they go home, they'll wake up the next day and they'll remember that cool band that they danced to. They'll remember the name. And that way there's an identifiable, connection there. It can be as stupid or as clever or as idiotic as you want, as long as it does that job, as long as it connects to people. And the Flying Toasters did that. It's just silly enough to where people, they don't forget it.
It might have been 3 when we were starting it.
To talk
to
about
be
it.
the Sunday night band thing and starting rehearsals.
Yeah, and Mark is right. And again, I'd forgotten that it was just going to be a Sunday night thing for a while. And that's how we were going to do it. Mark was going to play with us, and then, Henry booked a Sunday night gig, and we couldn't do that. And at that point, he says, well, let's just see what we can do with it. And that the band was born, like I say, it was March, I believe, 23rd or something was the first gig. But I think we started talking about it in late 2003, early 2004. And there were rehearsals, and, we had to talk and find who we wanted to be in the band. And
Who was the first keyboard rehearse with? I remember some with Bone.
What Bone did, this is Michael Reed. He really is a legend. He is the guy who.
What do you mean we're not? Oh no.
Well, maybe we're little legends. He's a bigger legend. No, I'm just. Actually, Michael was the keyboard player in the band with Mark when Henry got his record deal. And I remember what Bone did now. He did our demo, our Flying Toaster demo, because Rodney had not joined up yet. And we needed a demo. We wanted something, tangible, and Bone played on that. And I think Chris played on the demo. Again, it was just like...
I did a couple of rehearsals with Bone, because I remember we had to talk out that center section of Revolution, the Beatles, the faster version.
So you got to make a demo to promote yourself?
Yeah, that was, and oddly enough, it never really got used that much. We went and spent all this time at it, and then Lisa just booked the band on her word, and we just started out. I mean, there may have been a few people that got that demo, but it was, looking back on it now, we could have probably done without it. But you don't know at the time. You don't want to leave any rock unturned. I take it back. You are a big legend.
Yeah, big something.
You're remembering all this stuff that I had forgotten. I had completely forgotten about the fact that he had rehearsed early with us and that Bone did that stuff. Yeah, and we one thing I will say that we got really lucky with was that everyone we asked to be in the band said they wanted to do it.
Except me.
Yeah.
I was busy.
Well, and you're forgiven.
Well, it worked out, so
Yeah.
in the end, I guess.
But everyone said yes, and that was cool. And I remember Jason asked Darren Owens of Toy Factory, he's like, "Do you think Rodney would do it?" "Well, I don't know. Well, go ahead and ask him." So we did. I said, "Yeah, that sounds like fun." He's like, "You want to do it? Really? Wow, okay." So anyway, he comes to the rehearsal and he brought Jay
Majors.
Jay Majors with him. And the idea being that if Rodney couldn't do a gig, Jay Majors would be there to cover for him. So we'd always have a keyboard player. And that worked out fine for a while. I remember Jay did a couple, 3 early gigs with us when Rodney had conflicting commitments. And Jay was just great. He did a marvelous job. But ultimately, we needed Rodney to be in the band because Rodney knew the show inside and out. And once we started getting weddings and asking for real money, we needed to present the same product at every show. So the client gets what he or she paid for. And so Jay ultimately phased out, but the times we used to be was great, you know. So that was an interesting way to join the band, is bring a friend along.
Yeah.
And that way
Who's going to cover for me when I
yeah,
come in?
right. And it worked out. Once it started going, the whole idea was we just played the best we could every single night, and we tried to play the right songs, and word of mouth, you get asked back. And I mean, I subsidized the band out of my personal checking account for several months when we were having to give it away, because we had crew and we had a 6-piece band, and we were getting $300 a night in some of these places, you know. But that's what you had to do early on, and I was booking the band myself some of the time. Lisa was booking the band, and Jason was. We were all going out there, shaking the bushes, you know, trying to get a gig anywhere. And I remember some of those early on gigs were pretty scary, but it's just what we did. And then it got to the point where we started commanding enough money to where, you know, we hired a couple more crew, and that's another thing I want to touch on. And this was something that Jason and I felt very strongly about early on. It's like, with the production that we used, it's not the easiest thing in the world to set that stuff up. And if you spend half the afternoon bench pressing bass bins and lifting high-end cabinets up and running cabling and wiring and hooking up the monitor rig and then setting the drums up, you're not going to be in shape enough to give a real inspired performance. And I mean, you can do it, but you're dead tired, and then you got to schlep all the stuff out at 2 o'clock in the morning. So we just thought early on, it's like, we are going to set this precedent and have these people set this stuff up so we can be the best we can be. It's just like, I remember Jason said, Dad, he says, what happens if a road case closes on your hands? You know, what am I going to do, you know? So we had been blessed with a really good road crew headed up by Chad Couchman, who has been with the band since its inception. Chad is one of those guys, he has never missed a gig. And Chad is just one of those guys where we couldn't do the band without him. And we've always, you know, hired good guys, good crew, and that was a huge part of, I think, why the band's done as well as it's done. Because of those guys, you know, setting that stuff up and us being able to just walk in, you know, and play.
Oh,
So I wanted to take a minute and give a shout out to that road crew, because it's very essential.